come on. Go on, you go first. Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. Another beautiful day here at Longmeadow. We've had about 3-4 weeks of just constant sunshine. Whereas other people are complaining about heat waves and what to do in this extreme heat, I can tell you what to do as a gardener. Just enjoy it. It's fantastic. And to inspire you, we visit a wonderful topiary garden in Kent with lots of tips on how to shape and sculpt plants any way you want them.
Absolutely anybody can make topiary, but you've got to keep looking at it in the three-dimensional. There you are, my dear. How about that? Feels better, doesn't it?
And Carol revels in cornus, some of the most elegant and aristocratic of garden trees.
Trees play an important role in all our gardens. I just have to look upwards and concentrate on this wonderful group of trees.
And I shall be nurturing my plants, not just watering them, but also feeding them, planting up some alpines in pans, and also I've got a bit of a surprise in the cottage garden, which might involve Nigel. Now, when I planted out these tomatoes, I deliberately chose 3 ways to do them to have a kind of trial. It's informal, but what I'm looking for is the best possible taste. By the way, they're all gardener's delight. The first pair of tomatoes are planted in this grow bag. Absolutely bog standard one, peat-free, bought from a garden centre, the sort of thing that a lot of people use. And these are growing really well. They were by far the strongest initially. It's very easy to either underwater or overwater a grow bag. I can see here, I just noticed this morning, we've got blossom end rot. This is where the end of the tomato gets a horrible brown patch.
Blossom end rot is a sure sign of an erratic water supply.
So do be careful of not overwatering, but obviously don't let the plants dry out. The second batch of Gardener's Delight were planted in these plastic pots. Now, I've used these for years, and you can see that it's appreciably smaller than the grow bag, and also, significantly, the leaves are looking less healthy. And that's because they haven't been fed at all, and there was fertilizer already in the grow bag, so the plant's taken that up. And the third and final pair are in these terracotta pots that are only half filled with soil. There's a tiny bit of compost in there. And you can see that they're stunted, the leaves are looking a bit yellow, but there are fruit. Now remember, the trial is to find the best quality fruit, so there is still time for this batch to catch up and win this particular race. But what they will need urgently is feeding. About 6 weeks ago, I gathered up nettles and comfrey, soak them in buckets of water and let them stew. Now, they both look fairly similar, which is equally unpleasant. But if you think they look bad, believe you me, it is as nothing to the vapours that are rising. They smell truly disgusting. And the nettle mixture is squirming with rat-tail maggots just to add spice to what is already a pretty horrible brew. But it's interesting because I had an email from Paul Nash. And he said, I followed the instructions a few weeks ago and filled a bucket of stinging nettles soaked in water. Upon returning from a week's holiday, it had matured into a foul-smelling liquid, infested with hundreds and hundreds of bug-type things with a long, thin tail. Now, I look forward to hearing what you want to do with it. Obviously, rat-tailed maggots like the nettles, but what's interesting is they haven't laid at all in the comfrey. Now, at this stage, both buckets look pretty much identical, but they work in different ways. Nettles are high in nitrogen, and that encourages really good foliage, and you get a nice, healthy plant. And it doesn't matter what type of plant it is. That will work across the board. Whereas comfrey also has nitrogen, but it has much more potassium, potash, and that's brilliant at setting flowers and particularly fruit. Now, the technique for transferring a horrible brew into a magical elixir is very simple. I'm going to sieve it. Now, I'm using a garden sieve, but you can use anything. Any kind of wire, mesh, whatever you've got, to take out the rotting vegetation. And this is just a splash bucket. So we'll pour that into there. Here we go. Lovely. That can come out. And we'll dump that. Oh, gosh, that's all right. Now, I'm going to sieve this again. I do have a fine sieve. Right, there we have a green soup of goodness. But this is not the feed. You do not put this on in this raw state. It has to be diluted. The amount that you dilute it is not an exact science, but a pretty good guide is if you have a 2-gallon watering can, normal size, and you have a jam jar which takes half a pint of liquid. And I simply dip it in, pour that into the watering can, and that's adequate. It will give you roughly 30-to-1. And that's a good ratio if you're feeding 2 or 3 times a week. If you want to increase the feed, just increase the frequency. So the same dilution, but maybe do it every day. And it's simple as that. There we have a watering can of homemade feed. Didn't cost me anything, dead easy to make, and it will transform these plants. And of course, if you haven't or can't make your own feed, you can buy feeds of all kinds. A general all-purpose organic feed, liquid seaweed, is very good. It can feel, when it's really hot and dry, as though you're spending the whole time in the garden with a watering can in your hand.
But there are some very easy-to-grow plants that just love the hot, dry weather. A special group of succulents.
It's like a heatwave, burning in my heart. I can't keep from crying. It's tearing me apart.
Now, these plants don't come from the desert or the jungle. They are alpines. And I suppose it's fairer to say that it's not so much heat that they thrive in, but sunshine. They can't get enough of it. Sun and really, really good drainage. And the succulent alpines, which are sempervivums and sedums in particular, are perfectly adapted to going without water for long periods too. They grow in very, very harsh conditions, but they're fabulous. They look amazing. And they are flowering in the most extraordinary way. They're like something you'd find on a coral reef. You can see they throw up these stems. They look like something that you might find on Mars on a botany trip. Now, a lot of gardeners will be familiar with sedums growing in their borders, but actually there are lots of different types, particularly tiny leaf ones, small ones that will grow beautifully in a pan. This is a Brevifolium quinqueferum. And this is Sedum corticolum. And you've got this purpley grey foliage. This is dragon's blood. Now that is a fabulous plant, just in a pot on its own. I'm just going to put that like that, and that will spread. Now I've got room in here to add some house leeks as well. And when you look at the variety of house leeks, and there are a lot, that is the most perfect specimen. Slightly prickly. And we'll plant that in the middle. This is Reinhardt. Now this is Sempervivum rubin. And you can see that it is ruby coloured. And that will go with the dragon's blood. I've made a mix of gritty soil. What we're trying to mimic is the scree slopes that you get 2,000 metres up on a sunny mountain face. Don't want to pack them too much because A, will give them room to grow, and B, you want to mimic the growing conditions, which is not a great crowd of plants, but fairly loosely spaced. Apart from anything else, we don't want to shade them in any way. The next step, having planted that, is to put gravel on top. And this will do two things. It'll make it look better, and also it'll help the drainage. Now, those are almost indestructible. They need watering in, and then pretty much can be left to their own devices, whatever the weather, as long as you give them maximum light. Now, you can see in spring, I planted up this pan, and already it's beginning to develop its own character. It's a little mini garden. The flowers are over, but the plants are spreading and producing new rosettes, and there's a kind of jewel-like subtlety and intensity to them that I'm appreciating more and more. Now, you may not be planting alpines, but here are some other jobs you can be getting on with this weekend. Watering can take up a lot of time at this time of year, so it's important to do it efficiently. And the best way to water is to give plants a soak, not a sprinkle. Whether it be a large pot or a border, really drench them thoroughly. The roots will then go down deep and they'll dry out less quickly and you'll have to water less often. Although these are the high days of summer, it's time to plan and plant for next spring. I'm planting purple sprouting broccoli, which won't be ready to harvest till April. But if it's in the ground now, it'll grow steadily through autumn and winter. Two things to remember with all long-term brassicas. Plant them firmly in the ground. These, in fact, will need staking in a while, and also give them room to grow. A minimum of 2 feet in every direction, and if you've got the space, 3 foot apart. Summer pruning restricts growth, whereas winter pruning promotes it. And now is the perfect time to summer prune trained apples and pears. This could include espaliers or cordons. Remove the current season's growth to just above a fruiting spur. This may seem drastic, but it will restore the shape and also put all the energy into those spurs for next year's crop. Now, these are working trees, but Carol is looking at the cornus, which is a tree of rare style and elegance.
Trees play an important role in all our gardens. Now, usually my attention is concentrated below eye level on all these wonderful plants that clothe the garden. But at this time of year, that focus shifts. I just have to look upwards and concentrate on this wonderful group of trees which are just coming into their own. It's cornus. They offer us gardeners so much. Everything from glorious flowering dogwoods like this to splendid architectural trees. But at this moment, it's Cornus Norman Haddon who reigns supreme. Norman Haddon was a shy, retiring, but highly renowned and respected plantsman. Part of a group of plants people who all lived and were neighbours at Porlock on the Somerset coast. They shared plant material from all over the world, but this is the only tree that actually took Norman Haddon's name. I first met the tree at RHS Rosemore in the days of Lady Anne Palmer, and what attracted me to it was just the glory of these wonderful bracts. The whole tree's smothered with them. The flowers themselves are here in a little sort of sphere. They're insignificant, really, but those bracts, you just can't take your eyes off them. Eventually, they become pink too, and they last for months and months. It's such a glorious tree. My tree started its life as a layer from rosemore, and it was a spindly little thing when I brought it here, but that was 30 years ago. And since then, it's given so many people so much pleasure. When I first planted this beautiful Norman Haddon, I didn't do much to prepare the ground, just a bit of good compost. I had no idea when I put it in how it would grow and how extensive it would become. And you might think with a spread like this that it might be quite difficult to find things to grow underneath. Not a bit of it. At this time of year, Geranium nodosum takes over. It's in full and complete control. These beautiful mats of shiny green foliage spangled with purple flowers. Later on in the autumn, its foliage goes red and orange. At the same time, the cornice takes on glorious amber and yellow hints. Although Cornus Norman Haddon does make the most ornamental fruits, they're not necessarily fertile. And even if they were, they wouldn't come true. The only way to reproduce that tree is vegetatively. But there are some cornus that you can grow from seed, including one of the parents of Norman Haddon, which is Cornus capitata. It's a lovely, lovely tree from the Himalayas, and it too has big bracts, but they're sort of much more yellowy than this one. Now, I've got this lovely seed, which has already been stratified. It's been kept in a cold place. You can do the same thing yourself. You can keep your seed in a fridge once it's collected. And the whole idea is to delude that seed into thinking, when you take it out, sow it, subject it to air, warmth, light, water. It's spring, and away it goes. Now, it's quite big seed, this. So space these seeds out so that if and when they do germinate, they're going to have plenty of room for root development. Once the whole lot has been gritted and watered well, I'll put the tray outside and I'll leave it there until I get germination. It's really important with tree seeds to ensure that you pot them on fairly rapidly because they soon make a really big root system. After all, they're going to become trees. Could you possibly have a brighter and more beautiful presence in your garden than this tree? It's Cornus controversa variegata, the wedding cake tree. And you can quite see how it gets its common name. It grows a couple of feet and then it spreads out another layer of branches. Its arms right the way round, stretching out. Normally, I don't like variegated trees. I prefer them plain green, but in this case, it gives the whole thing this light and lilting sort of feel. When you come through the gate at the top of the field, it's the first thing you see. It shines out like a beacon. Where it comes from, all across the Himalayas and as far as Japan and Korea, it's valued highly medicinally to cure everything from arthritis to headaches. You can plant it in sun or shade, but of one thing you must be sure. Put it somewhere where you can really appreciate this wondrous stature.
Over the course of this year, we've been slowly transforming what was the vegetable garden into a cottage garden. But there is one element that cottage gardens always had, and that was topiary. And the bigger and the wackier the topiary, the better. We're talking about peacocks and railway trains and all that kind of thing. So I thought perhaps I should make a topiary Nigel. We should have a tribute to Nige in yew. And there are two ways of doing it. One is to shape an existing bush, and the other, which I'm going to do, is to plant specifically, knowing what you've got in mind. Now, I've got a particular picture of Nige here. Sorry, I'm talking about you, which shows him running. Now, I don't know if you can see, but it's quite bright. But it shows the way that the front foot on one side is up and the weight is taken at the back, and then the alternative foot is back. You've got tail out and head back. Now, this is going to take a few years, but we can get it going. Nice, healthy yew plants. It's containerized, so it doesn't matter about planting now, and make sure you really drench them thoroughly. Now, to get the effect I want one foot there, and the other one's got to be at an angle. So we'll put that there. So if you think about it, that's Nigel. He's going for it. If I put a bamboo in there and another one in here, now tying this framework into place just gives me something to train the yew onto. It's a guideline. It's not going to stay here for more than a few years. It doesn't have to be very accurate. Okay, what we essentially have is his back here, his tail there, one leg there and another leg there. It doesn't look anything like that at the moment, but it just gives us something to go for. So that can start to be tied in there. This will get tied in like that, and that will be trained in. Now, this is going to take time, and it will be at least 3 years before it looks remotely like any sort of dog, let alone Nigel. But if you want a slightly more instant bit of topiary, well, there's another way to do it. How about that, Nige? Look at that. Who's that? Come here and meet him. Who's that? Hello, Nigel. How are you? How are you? Okay. Now, here we have, I think it's a Labrador rather than a Golden Retriever, that you can set on the hedge, and I can fix it into place with a stake, and then the plant grows up inside it, and you let that grow. You clip the rest of the hedge round here, you let it grow up, and then as it starts to poke through the shape, you just clip round the outside. And as soon as it's big enough to reach the extremities, it immediately forms a sculpted, recognizable dog shape. Now, of course, it's a bit tacky, but it's fun, and it's exactly in the spirit of what a cottage garden should be like. So if I fix that there, pop him in, we can have Nigel running along the top of the hedge in a year or two. Is that good? Come and have a look. What do you think? What do you think? But if you want to see fabulous topiary now, there are lots of gardens that you can visit. And we went down to Kent to visit one that is especially good.
I adore topiary because it furnishes a garden 12 months of the year. You've always got something there. It doesn't matter. In the middle of winter and all snow, it's fantastic. Yew is the king. Yew is just fabulous. When the wood is young, it's pliable, so you can bow it or arch it. Box is the queen, which is wonderful to cut. Hornbeam we've arched into the wave hedges. Holly is buttery. Get your shears onto it, and it's so yielding, and it grows so quickly. Holly's really, really, really good to topiarize as well.
Everybody's talking about a chicken. A chicken is a popular bird.
I had a slightly wobbly head, but I haven't given him his trim this year. I'm going to just take some of these whiskers off him using these dear little handheld nippers, which are brilliant for shaping. That's enough on his head, otherwise we'll lose his little beak. He's got a dribbly nose here. But for the tail and his back, where I'm going to do some broader cutting, I'm going to pick up my shears and do some shearing. Much quicker, and I can get a nice, flat, broad sweep with them. To get the curvature of his back and the flat side of his tail. It's the beauty of box, or anything you're topiarizing, is that given time, you get the shape you want. I love this bird. He's quite an old plant. He had been ripped out with a chain and winch, and he was just lying beside the road. So I loaded it into my mini, and we planted it here, and it looked a very pathetic, bleeding character. It was a very odd shape, and it had this sort of protection on top, which I then allowed to grow on up. In probably the last 10, 15 years, it's become this bird. You grows quickly. I mean, it puts on sort of 10 inches, 12 inches a year once it's established. Right, I'm just going to come around here fairly arbitrarily. It's a bit like shearing a sheep, I suppose, but I don't want to cut it so it slopes under at all. I want the base of it to be out so it gets sufficient light. Cutting in the rain, in fact, after it has rained, is working to our advantage because you and box will gum up the shears, makes it hugely harder to work. So, in fact, if they're kept clean, it makes clipping a lot easier. Absolutely anybody can make topiary, but you've got to keep looking at it in the three-dimensional. You've got to keep looking at it from all sides. Possibly I may need a taller ladder, or my husband, to get the last few whiskers up at the top there. But I love pulling out these great handfuls. It's so satisfying. That's the toughest bit, because I'm cutting in a bit deeply, but it's the that is the apical tip there, so I've got it right out and pretty much done him, I think. There you are, my dear. How about that? Feels better, doesn't it?
Well, I'll be delighted if I can get my topiary Nigel looking half as good as any of those. They're fantastic. Of course, it will take a few years. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show. That's all we've got time for, but of course we will be back at the same time next week, so I'll see you then. Bye-bye.